Have you ever wondered what being a parent would be like? How about if you suddenly became a parent and your parent became a teenager? Well, it happened to me, and I'm here to tell you all about it. Hello, everybody. My name's Heaven, and I'm 17. But don't let my name deceive you, because this Heaven came straight out of hell. I suppose I've never been the easiest child. Back when I was younger, I had a lot of temper tantrums and outbursts. Once, when I was 8, this boy took the green crayon I wanted, so I snatched it off him, then snapped it in half. He burst into tears, and the teacher got involved and tried to put me in the timeout corner, so I screamed at her and even gave her some bruises. The teacher rang my parents and told them this was the last strike, and I'd been expelled. When they picked me up, my dad just sighed and stayed quiet, but my mom yelled at me. "Well, I hope you're happy now, Heaven. You've brought shame to our family, and now we've got to find another school willing to take you." Now, 9 years later, and the relationship between Mom and me is worse than ever. We just don't see eye to eye on anything. To be honest, we're like strangers. She has absolutely no idea what it feels like to be a teenager, and her super strict rules are ridiculous, such as no boyfriends until I'm 18. No parties, no drinking, no staying out past 8:30 p.m., no unhealthy foods. No, 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 no. She was such a fun killer. Jeez, who was she to try and control me like this? Ugh. Me being me, I tried to find my way around these stupid rules. I made out I was having a girly sleepover at my friend Clara's house, then ended up going to a party. I said I was at an after-school club, when really, I went on a date with a boy. And I chucked the healthy packed lunches she made me in the trash and ordered a greasy burger and loaded cheese fries instead. I hated the fact that Mom was ruining my life with all of her dumb rules, and she hated the fact that I didn't respect her enough to follow her dumb rules. Because of this, we argued. A lot. And my little bro John and my dad often found themselves stuck in the middle. I guess that they couldn't stand the icy atmosphere between us. So eventually, they themselves prepared for a family day out. And it was certainly going to fix nothing. Her rules still followed us to the park, and she'd even stopped me talking to this really cute guy and shouted at me to go mind John. Ugh! I wasn't here to be a maid! Then, when we got home, she insisted I help her cook dinner. So I poured Dad a beer, and when I thought Mom wasn't looking, I slurped back the rest of the can. Suddenly, my mom screamed out, "What do you think you're doing? You're too young to be drinking!" I just rolled my eyes and said, "What? It was a tiny sip. Stop being so uptight, else you'll turn into a wrinkly old prune." Then I threw the can on the floor and walked off. She gave me a fierce glare, but I didn't care. How could she be just so serious? So when we were all sitting around the table for dinner, I could feel the tension between me and Mom. She passed John a plate full of chicken nuggets, but she passed me a plate heaped full of broccoli. Yuck! Where are my nuggets?" I asked. Mom replied, "John is a growing boy. You, however, need to eat some vegetables, as you're getting a little chubby." How dare she? I wasn't even fat. In fact, I'm so skinny, I could be a model. If anyone needed to watch their weight, it was her, not me. She was the one squeezing herself into her old pair of skinny jeans. So I grabbed my plate of broccoli and threw it in the trash. Mom got up and said, "Fine, go hungry. See if I care. And you can clean up after yourself from now on." I yelled back, "Ridiculous! There's nothing in my stomach and you're giving me chores? Is this child abuse?" But then my dad startled us by slamming his fist on the table. "That's enough! Both of you! Start acting like grown-ups!" We both muttered out sorry. Then Dad came up with his bonkers idea. "Okay, so if you two cannot live in harmony, why don't you trade places?" Mom and I were kind of confused. "What do you mean?" I said to him. "Well, it's simple. Heaven, you'll switch places with Mom and do the housework, shopping, making dinner, and taking care of John, and so on. While Ariana," he looked at Mom, "you'll relive your teenage years and go to school."
Let's say for 2 days.
Mom looked thrilled at the prospect of being me. As for me, I wasn't convinced. I mean, who likes doing chores? Besides, tomorrow at school was class picnic day, which meant no classes, lots of tasty food, and plenty of time to stare at cute boys. But Mom seemed so excited at the idea of being me, so I decided I could take advantage of this. Does this mean I don't have to follow any stupid rules? I asked, and Mom and Dad nodded in agreement. Okay then, all the strict rules are gone.
Does this mean I can eat chocolate in bed?
John asked. I grinned. You betcha! Mom just shrugged and said,
It's okay, Mom. Now I have to prepare stuff for my picnic.
And she excitedly ran upstairs. This would be a breeze, right? I mean, how hard could being Mom actually be? The next morning, John woke me up extra early and insisted I make him breakfast. Yawn. While I was pouring cereal into a bowl for him, Mom appeared. She was wearing her hat backwards. Geez, someone seriously needed to tell her it wasn't the 90s anymore. Have fun, Ariana. I winked at her.
You too, Mom.
She winked back. I watched her through the window. As she got on the school bus, she turned to me and did the peace out sign. Geez, could she be any more uncool? Whatever, she could be as cringy as she wanted. I didn't care, as I had the whole day at home alone. Or at least, until I had to pick up my bro from school. I didn't bother loading up the dishwasher, and I sidestepped past the massive pile of laundry and decided to spend the morning on the couch watching a chick flick and painting my nails. This was the life. A few hours passed, and I was so bored and hungry, so I went into the kitchen to look for food. But the cupboards were empty. Then I noticed a shopping list and some money on the counter. Reluctantly, I walked to the local store, but I ignored the list and bought lots of snacks. Hey, I was Mom, so I made the rules. In the end, I found myself so bored that I actually ended up doing the laundry. I didn't really know what I was doing, so I threw everything into the machine, fiddled with the dial, and hoped for the best. Then my phone rang. It was Clara. So I answered and she said, Hey, why is your mom here instead of you? I told her about the switch up, then asked her what my mom was up to. She was quiet for a second, then said, well, she's definitely enjoying the picnic. In fact, she's showing Mrs. Puller her dabbing skills. What? My mom was dabbing? Which no one did anymore. And in front of our ancient science teacher? Was she trying to humiliate me? Whatever, my mom could get on with it. I had house chores to do. Geez, what's with chores? They seriously never seem to end. By the end of the day, I was so exhausted that I ordered takeout for everyone, then slumped in front of the TV. I finally had the option to stay out late, but I didn't have the energy to do it. Then, the next day, when I was doing yet more house chores, my friend Patrick sent me a photo. It was Mom. She was wearing a cheerleader's outfit that exposed her midriff. What? She was just at a casual football match. No one dressed up for that. Then Patrick sent me another picture. In it, Mom was fiddling with her hair and touching some jock's shoulder. OMG. Was she trying to flirt with him? Whatever. I didn't have time for this. I had to go pick John up from school, then go to the grocery store to get supplies for dinner. We arrived home to find Mom slumped on the couch, surrounded by empty wrappers and cans. On seeing me, she said, "Oh, you're back." I told John to go to his room, then I stormed over to Mom and said, "What's with all this mess? Clean it up." She just smirked at me and said, "Nah, you never clean it up, so why should I? After all, we have switched places, remember?" She finished her beer, then burped loudly before she threw the can at my feet, then walked off. This was so annoying. I'd already tidied the living room once today, and now I had to do it again. My mom was so unfair. Then, when I finally managed to grab 5 minutes to relax with a hot chocolate, loud thudding sounds were coming from upstairs. It was her music. It was so loud, it made the ceiling shake. Geez, She was so annoying. Then suddenly, it dawned on me. This was how I acted. Mom was just being me. So, okay, I guess I was a little harsh at times. I suppose being mom wasn't as easy as it looks. So I decided to make amends by making a delicious dinner. But there was one problem. I can't cook. In fact, the last time I tried to cook, I set the crepes and the pan on fire. So, for safety purposes, I asked Clara and Patrick to help me. They had cooking class, so they knew what to do. We created a feast of barbecue ribs, burgers, cornbread, salad, grape punch, and for dessert, a chocolate lava cake and blueberry pie. I swear they looked so good, I wanted to drool all over them. Mom came downstairs chewing her gum and scrolling through her phone, but then she looked at the food and stuttered, How did you make all of this? Not even I could make this many meals. I just shrugged and said, I had a little help from my friends. No biggie. Then I stopped in front of Mom and said, I'm sorry that I've been a bad daughter. I know you do a lot for me, and I promise I'll be better from now on. Mom started crying and said, I'm sorry too. I know it isn't easy being your age. I can't keep up with the trends. I thought dabbing was popular. Anyway, from now on, I'll be fair to you, and we'll have fun together. After that, we hugged it out. Then my dad stood up and said, Well, now anyone want to trade places with me? John immediately raised his hand, and all could see his eyes light up. Soon, we all burst out laughing, thinking about one day John will go to work and talk about dinosaurs at the meetings. Meanwhile, my dad is building a Lego castle for John's kindergarten girlfriend. My family is now happier than ever. It's all thanks to my dad's crazy idea. You should never disrespect your parents, otherwise you might just find yourself living in their shoes. Literally. And trust me, I'll take strict rules and being nagging parents any day if the alternative is grocery shopping and house chores. Ugh! Sometimes in life, we do things we might not be proud of. But honestly, if I had to go back and do it all again, I wouldn't change a thing. Please listen to my story and let me know if you think I did the right thing. It's been a crazy ride. I'm Delilah, and I grew up as an orphan. When I was only 5 years old, my parents were arrested as they belonged to some kind of mafia. I didn't have any relatives, so I was sent to an orphanage. I was too young to really understand it all. I just thought my parents were so busy with work, they didn't have time to take care of me. But later, I understood that my parents were bad people, and that they'd often hit me and even starved me whenever I was naughty. Over the next 4 years, I was adopted by 3 different families. The first 2 didn't end so well, so they sent me back. But the third family was really nice. Unfortunately, luck wasn't on our side, though. There was a car accident. I was lucky enough to survive, but my adoptive parents didn't make it. I was devastated and got sent back to the orphanage. I didn't understand why I was so unlucky. It really felt like the universe was punishing me. Years passed by and no other families adopted me. So as soon as I turned 18, I left and decided to start on my own. But it wasn't easy. I'd had no real education and I couldn't find a decent job. I did a lot of random jobs, like pizza deliveries, handing out flyers on the streets, and working in a supermarket for a bit too. The money was never enough, though. I hate to admit this, but sometimes I stole groceries from work. However, one time I got caught, and of course, they fired me. That sucked. How would I be able to make it to tomorrow with $2 in my wallet now? I vented out with my coworker Casey about how miserable my life would be without that job. Then Casey just smirked at me and said she knew another way I could make some money. She said it was just a one-time thing and it would be risky, but the money would be enough to last me for years. I was eager to hear more, but you won't believe what it was. The job was to kidnap the daughter of a rich family and then demand ransom. Casey said all I had to do was take care of the kid for a few days in an abandoned warehouse, and when the parents paid the ransom, they'd send the kid back, and I'd be free to go with all the money. I mean, it sounded easy, right? It's not like I was actually kidnapping her. I was just taking care of her for a few days. More like a babysitter. So nothing could go wrong, right? The little girl was called Lisa, and she was just 2 years old. Her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Taylor, were well known, and they were stinkin' rich. The plan was actually so simple. Every Sunday, her nanny took her to the playground, and so that's where she'd be kidnapped from. You're probably wondering if it worked out. Well, I'm not in jail right now, so there you have it. I was waiting in the warehouse, and they delivered Lisa to me. Now, all we have to do is wait. The warehouse was pretty shabby, but it had enough to survive. And at first, Lisa cried a lot, and I seriously couldn't get her to stop. I tried playing her Baby Shark on YouTube. Believe it or not, it worked, and she stopped immediately. Later that night, though, Casey called and said Lisa's parents refused to pay and that the police were involved. Oh my gosh! So now what? They couldn't just leave me here with this random kid. The only option Casey could think of was that me and Lisa should hide out at Casey's grandparents' farm for a couple of years. That's when the case died down and everyone had forgotten about it. We could just leave Lisa outside a police station. This was insane! But what choice did I have? Lisa's face was now plastered on every newspaper and webpage. Also, not to mention the fact I knew nothing about raising a kid. What a disaster! But hey, at least I'd get to move to a farm. So the next morning, Casey's cousin, who drives vegetables from the farm to the city, picked us up and drove us safely to the farm. It was perfect, because Casey's grandparents didn't own a TV or the internet, so they knew nothing about the missing kid. Casey told them I was a single mom and had nowhere else to live, so they warmly welcomed us and said in return I could help them out on the farm. Those first few weeks were torture. Lisa was so naughty. Every time I fed her, she'd throw her food around. And once, she threw a hot bowl of soup over my head. After that, I was tempted to let her starve. I couldn't handle it. To be honest, I hated her. I regretted so bad getting involved in this mess every time I saw her face. But then one night, she was lying on the bed and I was impressed. She'd finally chilled out. I went to wake her up to take her down for dinner, and she was on fire! I started panicking and went to find a thermometer, and her temp was 39 degrees Celsius. I had to get her fever down. I asked Casey's grandparents to help me buy some medicine for her. I was seriously panicking because she was shaking now. I just picked her up and held her in my arms, and I realized I would protect this little girl no matter what. She looked so innocent, and I actually felt my heart open up to her. We must have fallen asleep because I suddenly woke up an hour or so later and was relieved to see her body temp was back to normal. After that, I felt closer to Lisa. And honestly, she was pretty cute. Soon, I was sewing her little dresses and cooking her favorite foods. We actually had so much in common. We both loved mac and cheese, hated carrots, and were addicted to chocolate. Pretty soon, a year had flown by, and Lisa was starting to speak. And then she started to sing. And oh man, she's the most adorable thing on earth. Then one day, she turned to me and said, "Mama." I almost cried. I felt so happy, but it wasn't right. I had to give her back to her parents. She didn't deserve to live a life away from them, like I had with my parents. So I did something crazy. I saw Lisa's parents were looking for a part-time maid, so I used a fake name and applied for the job. I wanted to see if it was safe to take Lisa back without getting caught, but it was immediately clear that something wasn't right. It was like they didn't even miss her. I mean, imagine if your child had been kidnapped. Surely you'd be crying a lot, right? This family was different. All they seemed to do was work. It was so easy to sneak around their house. They left for work at 9 a.m. every morning and would only come back at 7 p.m. The only one I had to be careful of was Mrs. Garcia, the housekeeper. One day, I was searching for Lisa's room to see if I could get some of her toys, but I couldn't find it anywhere. There wasn't a single room that looked like it belonged to a 2-year-old. Had they seriously already packed up her room? Just given up hope? So I decided to search the basement, and jackpot! I found a box full of toys. But that's not the only thing that was there. There was a crumpled up photo, too. I got curious and unfolded it, and saw a little girl in the photo. I froze. That little girl wasn't Lisa. She was about 5 years old and looked familiar. It's like I've seen her before. Could it be? Is that me? But why did Lisa's parents have a photo of me? Suddenly, Mrs. Garcia appeared and said, "What are you doing down here? I knew there was something fishy about you. I'm going to call Mr. Taylor." She quickly took out her phone and was about to dial his number. I grabbed it from her, but oh man, this old lady was strong. We were fighting over her phone, and then she let it go. She looked shocked and pointed at me, then in a trembling voice said, You are Delilah, aren't you?" I was stunned. How did she know my real name? Oh God, she must have known I'd kidnapped Lisa. I was probably about to go to jail. But then she continued speaking, and I thought I was going to faint. Lisa's parents were also my biological parents, which made Lisa my sister. Mrs. Garcia had recognized me because she saw the scar on my arm, which she said I'd got from falling out of a tree. She'd worked for my family since before I was even born. But then she said something that shocked me even more. "Don't come back to this family, Delilah. Please, it's for your own good. If you stay, you'll be in danger like poor little Lisa. They didn't care about her at all. They often left her starving, and then she got kidnapped. They haven't even bothered to look for her. They're cruel and heartless, and all they care about is money. Having a kid was just part of the cover-up for them and their illegal business. I really hope Lisa is in a safe place now. Anything is better than this family." Oh my God. This was seriously crazy. After all these years, I'd finally found my parents. But deep down, I knew Mrs. Garcia was right. If Lisa and I came back, our lives would be hell. Before I left the room, I asked Mrs. Garcia one last question. Did my parents look for me when they got out of jail? Mrs. Garcia shook her head sadly. Let's be honest, though. I knew the answer before I even asked. So I went back to the farm and continued to take care of Lisa. Now that I knew she was my sister, I loved her even more and promised myself that I'd give her the life she deserved. It's been 10 years now, and we're doing great. Our parents did do a bit of searching for Lisa, but only for like a month. Then they gave up. Mrs. Garcia had been right. They didn't care about Lisa or me. When it felt safe, Lisa and I moved to Canada. I started to work in a few different places and even took some classes. Turns out, I have a passion for plants, and I can thank my time on the farm for that. So I opened a small plant shop, and the business is going so well. Lisa is my motivation. She's the reason I work so hard and keep fighting for our lives. And now we're happier than we've ever been. When Lisa turns 18, I'm going to tell her everything. But for now, I'll let her think our parents aren't evil people and that they're just busy working in another country. So, what do you think? Would you agree I did the right thing? I think I did. Hey, what exactly do you think you're doing? I know you stole my money. Give it back to me right now. Yeah, give it back to Sophie. That's her allowance. What money? I don't know about any money. I shrugged as I walked toward my bed, ignoring Sophie's furious face. After that, I had to listen to Sophie throw more accusations at me. Blah, blah, blah. I know it was only because I was a tomboy, so surely if a girl chooses to have short hair and wear baggy clothes, then she must be a thief. Poof! Eventually, I reached my breaking point. Quit with the accusations. I didn't steal any money. I didn't even know you had money. I know you took it. If you don't return it to me this instant, then I'm going to tell Miss Hopkins. Her idle threats didn't bother me, so I just flopped down on my bed and played on my phone.
Talk about a heavy atmosphere. Ugh. Then I saw them all frantically checking their phones and giving each other confused looks. So I took an earpod out and heard a phone ringing from over by Sophie. Isn't that your new phone, Sophie? Why don't you pick it up?
What? No!
Sophie stuttered while Bella and Carly stared at her, all confused. I walked over to Sophie's bed, lifted the pillow, and yep, there was a brand new iPhone 13 Pro Max. So, Sophie, if there's nothing wrong with your brand new phone, then why did you feel the need to hide it so badly and not answer my calls? She nervously chewed on her nails, then blurted out, "Fine, I spent all my allowance on a new phone. I knew my parents would be livid that I spent it so quickly, so I thought it'd be easier to blame you, since you're new and look kinda intimidating." Nice. I stared at her. You could have, found someone dumber to mess with, as I already see right through you and your dirty schemes. But whatever.
Girls, I'm sorry.
She gave Bella and Carly pleading looks.
Please forgive me.
They both shook their heads and told her that she'd have to ask Miss Hopkins, the dormitory supervisor, for a room change, else they'd tell everyone what she did. So Sophie angrily packed, then moved out. When the room was Sophie-free, Carly and Bella apologized to me, then helped me tidy up my stuff. I smiled at them. No worries, it's cool. After that, they wouldn't quit complimenting my clothes and style, and how smart I was. This was flattering and all, but I kept my chill exterior. That weekend, the school took us out on some woodland activity day. Our teachers organized a treasure hunt and divided us into groups. I ended up with Carly, Bella, and these two other girls. The teacher handed Bella the map, and she held it up the wrong way.
I think this map's broken.
I chuckled, took it off her, then using the first clue we'd been given, I quickly found out that we needed to walk 100 steps east and find a tree by the lake. Turns out, all of the other clues were as easy peasy as the first one. And soon we'd finished the game. In first place. Everyone was gawping and clapping at me. Poof, it's just a piece of cake. We were on our way back to the dorm room when Carly sidled up to me and said,
"Hey Sam, you did great today."
Oh, it's nothing. Puzzle games are my cup of tea.
Hey, I have an idea. Let's form a detective team, as our school still has a few cases unsolved.
That's a good idea.
With the Sherlock Holmes minds of ours combined, nothing is impossible.
Then the three of us looked at one another and laughed. I gave a nod in agreement. I mean, a detective agency sounded kind of fun. And that's how the CSI detective team was born. It stands for Caroline, Samantha, Isabel. Of course. At first, everyone laughed at us because they thought this group was nonsense. But then, the math exam was stolen, and through our expert investigation skills, we linked it to none other than Aubrey, the top student in the class. Hey, we even caught the creep who broke into the school to spy on the girls. And it was only a matter of time till everyone began to recognize our talents. One day, the three of us were standing at the locker when a series of message alarms rang out. It turns out that our school's confession page has a new post claiming that Liam, the most popular boy at school, was seducing, then defrauding numerous girls. They also posted some of the love notes Liam had slid into the girls' locker to manipulate them into giving him money. The message showed, "I can't wait to take you on a special date, but my debit card won't work. If you lend me yours, I'll make our date unbelievable. I promise. X." OMG, this is unbelievable. At that moment, I felt a tap on my shoulder, and I turned around to see a sullen-looking Liam standing there. "Please, you've gotta help me. These are all false accusations. Please help me find out who did this." And of course, all of us nodded immediately.
No one would refuse to help a boy as cute as Liam. Oh, I mean, we're the school's famous detective team, so how can we ignore this? Right?
Yeah, right. I rolled my eyes. I didn't blame Carly for liking Liam. I mean, everyone likes him. I guess even I did. Bella then interrupted my daydreaming.
Come on, guys. Let's focus on our job.
I think the person who did this must have some kind of grudge against Liam. Everyone agreed and started investigating, which led me to sneak into Liam's dorm and rifle through the bin. Bingo! I found a scrunched up piece of paper with the messages Liam had supposedly sent to his victims, scrawled in green ink. Then, who should just so happen to have green smudge on their hand but James, one of Liam's roommates. It turns out, James did this just because he was jealous of Liam's popularity. How petty. Well, this success certainly made the detective group more credible. We actually had our own fan base, and I was always overhearing other kids talking about us in a good way. Best of all, Liam was so grateful to us that he started hanging out with us more. We even went to the park with him one weekend, and he bought us all ice creams. Carly kept on flicking out her hair and giving him doe-eyed looks, while, being the chilled girl I am, I kept it at a smile and a thanks. The only one who didn't seem impressed by Liam was Bella, who took the ice cream, forced a polite smile, then ignored him. Oh well, at least this meant one less competitor for his affection. One day, we were having lunch when we overheard the girls at the next table talking about how a girl saw a ghost in the old chemistry lab, and it scared her so badly, she refused to leave her bedroom for days. According to the others, the legend of this ghost had been around for a long time. Now, this sounded like a job for the CSI, but Bella immediately folded her arms and shook her head. No, I'm not going. There are no ghosts in this world. I firmly said, yep, so we have to go and clear this up. But no matter how much Carly and I tried to persuade her, she point-blank refused to go. Don't you know about the curse? If anyone goes looking for this ghost, they will be cursed and have bad luck for the rest of their lives. Didn't you just say there are no ghosts in this world? So why does that dumb curse bother you? Actually, I'm afraid of ghosts. I looked at Bella and tried not to laugh. Okay, so you stay in the room. Then me and Carly went to discuss plans for the evening. We were hiding in the corner of the chemistry lab. Jeez, it was boring in here, and I was kinda hungry. I should have brought snacks. Suddenly, a cold wind blew past us. It made me all goose-pimply. Carly shook my arm and whispered, Sam, let's go back to the dorm. Shh! I heard something. Footsteps. Then I felt a touch on my shoulder. I looked at Carly. Then we both screamed and bolted for the door. Thud! We hit something and fell to the floor. I scrambled to get up and saw Carly with her eyes closed and praying. Please, ghost! Please forgive us! What are you doing here this late? I looked up. It turned out to be a frowning Miss Hopkins. Yep, we both ended up getting a week's worth of detention for sneaking around at this hour. Ugh. After Miss Hopkins gave us another lecture and escorted us back to our dorm, Bella looked at us from her bed and said, I told you that you'd both end up cursed, didn't I? I snorted. I mean, a curse was nonsense, right? But then weird things started happening to me and Carly. My history assignment disappeared 10 minutes before the deadline. Carly went to put her sports kit on and found it covered in mud stains. And our personal items kept on disappearing, then reappearing in weird places. Worse still, the rumor of the detective team being cursed spread very quickly. Enough was enough. I needed to investigate this so-called curse and get to the bottom of it. I told Bella and Carly what I planned to do, but they didn't seem convinced. No, what if something bad happens? I'm never going back there. Sam, you shouldn't go there either. Okay, chill. I won't do it. It's just an idea. Calm down. That's what I told them. But the thing is, I don't give up easily, and I needed to figure out what was going on. So that night, I snuck out of the room and went to the lab alone. The hallway leading to the lab was so dark and quiet that I could hear my own breathing. Then suddenly, I saw a dark figure standing in front of the lab door. I tiptoed over. Then I heard a voice. Did anyone see you? So ghosts can talk now? But wait, why is this voice so familiar? I shone my phone flashlight at it. Bella? And Liam? Bella startled.
Listen to me first. It's not what you're thinking.
Oh my God, had my friend been betraying me all this time? I immediately turned away and stormed off. Bella tried catching up with me to explain, but I didn't want to hear it. It was her all along. She'd played those sneaky tricks on Carly and me, so we thought we were cursed and wouldn't go back to her and Liam's secret rendezvous place. Back in the room, I told Carly what had happened, and we decided to ignore Bella. That's what she deserved. One day, we were eating lunch when Bella came over. Both of us were about to leave, but Bella hurriedly said, "Please give me a chance to explain." There's no need to explain. We know what you did.
I know I messed up, but it's only because I'm afraid you guys will react like this, and I didn't want to lose our friendship.
I put down the tray and reluctantly sat down.
I've been dating Liam for a while, and we were going to go public, but then I could see that you both liked him, and I was worried you'd be mad at me, and our detective team would disband. God, you're such an idiot! Do you think we're that selfish?
So yeah, we have a bit of a crush on Liam, but if you told us you were dating him, we would have been cool with it. Hearing that, Bella looked embarrassed. Then she gave a reconciling smile. Then we all hugged each other and promised that from now on, there would be no more secrets between us. And of course, the CSI detective team is still active, and now even has a hot new boy member. Yep, you guessed it right. It's none other than Liam.
I'm so nervous. You see, today is my first day of school ever. That's right. I'm Heather. I'm 15 years old, and I've never stepped foot inside of a school before. This is because my dad's a scientist and my mom's a writer, so they really cared about my education and worried that the elementary and middle schools in our town wouldn't be good enough. So my mom homeschooled me. Honestly, it was great. I really enjoyed learning about all kinds of different topics, especially literature. But then when I watched TV shows about high schools like The Kissing Booth or High School Musical, I felt a pang in my chest. I was missing out on so many things like having friends and talking to boys. I desperately wanted what those girls on TV had. So I begged my mom to let me go to high school. It took a lot of persuading and fake tears, but she agreed eventually. I was so excited! Finally, I'd get to experience school firsthand instead of living it vicariously through my favorite TV characters. Oh my God, what should I wear? What would I talk about? How would I make friends? This was actually happening! I could barely sleep the night before, and instead, I took the whole night to prepare myself. This was an important milestone in my life. So here I am, walking down the street to the bus station. Whoa, I've never seen so many people my age before. This is like a dream come true. I spotted an empty seat next to this girl, so I walked over with a smile. Excuse me, can I sit here? The girl looked me up and down, rolled her eyes, then put her bag on that seat. Sorry, it's already taken. Okay, that's fine. I'll sit alone in the back then. No problem. The girl must have gotten up on the wrong side of the bed or something. But, well, turned out it wasn't just the girl on the bus who'd gotten out of bed the wrong way. Because as soon as Mrs. Hickson, my English Lit teacher, introduced me to everybody in class, I could see that everyone was giving me weird looks too. Were they making fun of me? But why? Did I have jam on my face? Mrs. Hickson showed me to my seat, and the class began.
By now, you've all had plenty of time to finish reading The Great Gatsby.
Aw, I adore that novel.
Throughout the novel, Fitzgerald continuously references a green light that Gatsby keeps on reaching for. Can anyone tell me what the green light symbolizes?
I looked around, expecting to see everybody raise their hand. But to my shock, they were all staring down at their desks to avoid eye contact with Mrs. Hickson. Huh? But why? This was so easy. Suddenly, Mrs. Hickson said,
No one, huh? Well, how about you, Kelly? Everybody turned and looked at a girl who was adjusting her fake eyelashes in her compact mirror. Kelly continued fiddling with her eyelashes as she replied, doesn't a traffic light have a green light? So, duh, it means that he can cross the street. What? I burst out laughing, but then everyone turned to look at me. Oh, snap! Why was I the only one laughing? I mean, her answer was totally hilarious. Mrs. Hickson walked towards me. Oh no, was I in trouble? Heather appears to be the only one here who understands why Kelly's answer was ridiculous. Can you explain this to your classmates? The color green in itself illustrates the idea of greed and money, being a symbol of Gatsby's desire for Daisy. Gatsby already has everything anyone could dream for, but still, he is chasing after this light, or, in other words, chasing after the love of his life, Daisy. Mrs. Hickson gave me a satisfied smile, patted me on the shoulder, and then she said, "That's correct. Very good, Heather." Suddenly, someone coughed out the word, "Nerd!" Everybody started to laugh. Seriously? How could they laugh at this, but not Kelly's foolish answer? Quiet! Mrs. Hickson then turned to Kelly and said, "Perhaps if you used your eyes to actually read a book, instead of only using them to wear fake eyelashes, then Heather here wouldn't need to help you." Kelly glanced over at me, so I smiled at her. But, why was she giving me a dagger look? Did I do something wrong? After class was over, I was sticking cute pictures in my locker when Kelly and her two friends, Samantha and Brittany, appeared next to me. "Heather, right?" "Yeah, that's right." "Oh my God, your sweater is... Oh, do you like it? My mom... So ugly. Why are you even wearing one? It's not even cold. Is your mirror busted or something? Why else would you choose to wear such an awful outfit?" Then the three of them started to laugh. "What do you mean? I dress just like Jess in New Girl. She looks amazing, doesn't she?" This made them laugh even louder. While I was still feeling confused about what just happened, a girl named Taylor walked over. "Hi, I overheard what you were talking about. Actually, New Girl ended a few years back, so her style is kinda outdated. Try watching Emily in Paris. That's the trend nowadays." Oh God, I didn't think of that. No wonder the girl on the bus. Oh wait, no wonder everyone at school was giving me awkward looks. They must be thinking I came from the past or something. And you should be careful. Kelly and her gang like to tease others, and I think you're their new target. Oh, so Kelly's stare earlier in class wasn't just a regular stare. But so what? Thanks, but I'm not afraid of them. I know this type of mean girl. They're all bark and no bite. So that night, I binge-watched Emily in Paris. It's très chic. I studied the fashion style and mixed up some outfits. I looked at myself in the mirror and, oh my, I really did look different. The next day at school, no one was giving me funny looks. How about that? Taylor's advice was really helpful. By the end of the first week, I'd established myself as most of the teacher's favorite student. It sounded great, right? But trust me, it wasn't. Every time a teacher praised me, Kelly and her friends gave me dirty looks. Then I found a note stuck to my locker that said, "You weirdo." Right at that moment, Kelly and her friends walked past me giggling. In anger, I ripped off the note and told them, "When you're leaving mean comments at my locker, at least write them correctly. Weirdo is missing an R." They immediately stopped laughing and rushed off so that nobody knew it was them. Man, they were so annoying. High school wasn't turning out how I expected it to be. I thought I would be one of the cool kids, not the one being teased. Ugh! Then word got out that I used to be homeschooled, so Kelly began making jokes like, "Did your parents make you stay at home 'cause you're a freak?" Well, at least thanks to homeschooling, I don't come up with dumb answers in lit class. I snapped back. She stopped laughing and gave me this dumbfounded look. After that, they still carried on with their immature jokes at every given opportunity.
but I tried my best to ignore them. But one day, they took it too far. I came to class and saw a big character drawing on the blackboard. It was me! Oh my god, Heather, your portrait looks amazing! And the whole class burst out laughing. Ugh, how dare she! You messed with the wrong girl this time, Kelly! That afternoon, I went home and was persistent to find a way to get payback on the mean girls. Bingo! I took out my laptop and began frantically working. After just one night, I managed to hack all their social media accounts, including their iCloud, and found a lot of good stuff. So the next time they mess with me, I'll be prepared. And it didn't take long until Kelly's friends stopped me in the hallway again. Ugh, could your skirt be any longer? Yeah, your grandma called. She wants her clothes back. Suddenly, everyone gathered around us to see what was going on. Good timing. Now we had an audience. Let's give the mean girls a taste of their own medicine. Beautiful hair, Samantha. Tell me, how often do you have to dye it so that nobody knows you're actually a redhead? What did you say? Oh, and Brittany, nice nose job. What? Everybody shockingly turned to look at Samantha. It was such a beautiful weekend, but instead of being out having fun, I was stuck at home. For what, you ask? To teach Excel to a girl who doesn't even know how to use Shift key shortcuts. What is the matter with you? I've explained the code 20 times to you already. I'm sorry. Let's face it, you suck at this. Try to beat me in your dream. If I had to waste one more second sitting next to her, I'd go crazy. Look how fake you are. If you're mad, then just show me. Why do you always have to be Miss Friendly? Let me introduce you. That's Laura, my so-called sister. 2 months ago, my mom brought her home and announced, Jeff, I have something to tell you. Back when we broke up for a while, due to your parents' hatred towards me, well, during that time, I found out I was pregnant. I gave birth to our little girl, Laura. I was only 22 and I had no money, so as much as it pained me to do so, I gave her away. I've never stopped thinking about her, and now, well, I've managed to find her. She dabbed at her teary eyes, then handed Dad the DNA test results. Dad was overwhelmed and ran over to hug Laura. They all cried a lot and hugged a lot. As for me, I just stood there in shocked silence as I watched this family reunion take place. It all happened so fast. How was I supposed to believe that it was just a coincidence when Mom suddenly found her long-lost child after so many years? What now, Skylar? Stop being so headstrong. Mom scolded me, then rushed over to Laura and started cuddling her and soothingly stroking her hair. It's not my fault she has the learning capacity of a slug. Stop interfering, else I'll quit teaching her. By the way, those loving mother-daughter things also? Cut it off! It's ridiculous! I know what you're thinking. What's with the attitude towards my mom? The thing is, she's not even my real mom. A few months ago, something crazy happened to me. A strange woman showed up out of nowhere and claimed she was my mom. Say what now? Of course, I told her she'd got the wrong person. But when I saw the selling contract between my mom and her, I froze in shock. Turns out, my mom miscarried a child, but she was too afraid she'd lose her place in the family, so she bought me from this woman. So, I was adopted. It's common, right? But still, I don't deserve to be treated like that. I had always been neglected since I was little. Mom never hugged or kissed me. She didn't read me bedtime stories or tuck me into bed at night. All she ever did was snarl at me. Go away! I guess I convinced myself that this was just how Mom was. But then Laura arrived, and Mom is totally different with her. I get it now. I get why she treated me so cold and why I've never felt happy despite growing up in a wealthy family. Because I'd never belonged here. After the incident with the woman,
I confronted Mom about it.
I get it. I know I'm not your real daughter, and that's why you think it's acceptable to treat me like garbage?
Oh, please, stop with the dramatics.
Let me tell you this. Even if you did adopt me, I'm still gonna prove my efficiency to Dad and take over this company by myself.
Mom was dumbfounded after hearing that. Then, not long after that, she turned up with Laura. That's why I didn't believe there was no coincidence. She brought Laura back to compete with me. And if that was true, then what do I have to be scared of? How are my two girls? Skylar, are you still helping Laura with her studies?
Yeah, Dad. She still helps me every day. Thank you so much.
Okay, that's great. When you move past the basics, I think you should take a few more extra courses. Do your best and try to follow your sister. There's no way she can be as good as me, not even in her wildest dream. Laura is very smart, and she'll soon be up to speed. I'm also teaching her more about our family business. Huh? Is Mom going to teach her more to compete with me? I can obviously see her greed and competitiveness. But whatever. Laura and I are at two distinctly different levels anyway. I am an excellent student at the Columbia Business School, while she's just an uneducated nobody. Poof! Please! I have absolutely nothing to worry about. Mom kept forcing her to study, but see? Speaking of Mom, she'd been acting weird lately. One minute she treats me like a stubborn stain she can't get rid of, then the next she's trying to set me up with some guy named Dean. He's the son of her super rich colleague. I don't understand why she suddenly feels the need to find me a boyfriend. And Dad wasn't helping the situation, as instead of telling Mom to stop playing matchmaker, he was encouraging her. Ugh. Okay, I just wanted them to quit bugging me, so in the end, I agreed to talk to this Dean guy. But now, he won't stop messaging me, and he's even shown up at the house. I suppose he is kinda handsome and nice, but he's not my type. So I just talked to him out of politeness. Until one time, I saw Laura sneaking a peek at Dean while he was waiting for me in the lobby. Wait. Don't tell me she likes Dean? Oh well, she's welcome to my leftovers. I don't like this guy anyway. Then one day, I was walking along the corridor when I received a text from Dean. Skylar, are you free tomorrow? Let's have dinner together. I was about to text back when I suddenly heard Mom and Laura arguing. What's wrong with you, Laura? Why are you secretly dating that jerk?
Why not, Dean? He's a good guy. Besides, he told me that there's nothing going on between him and Skylar.
So Dean is two-timing us? He snuck out on a date with Laura while flirting with me on the phone all day? What on earth? I tried to keep calm while continuing to listen. You're crazy. Stop this stupid secret dating game at once. What? Why is Mom insisting he's a good guy to me, but telling Laura the opposite? Well, Mom, which one is it? Is Dean a good match like you told me, or a jerk like you told Laura? He's rich, so keep on dating him and stop bothering me with your nonsense. Ugh, I wasn't born yesterday. There's definitely something wrong with this Dean. The very next day, I decided to go and follow Dean. Oh my gosh! What was he wearing? And why did he go to this slum? Then he gathered with a few other thugs. So, it's obvious, Dean definitely was a street guy. That's why Mom didn't let Laura get close to him. But why did she match him with me? Could that be a part of her plan to bring me down? Ha! Nice try! I'd had enough spying for one day, so I was about to leave. But then suddenly, I heard a familiar voice which startled me. I turned around, then... What? It's... Mom? How dare you ruin the plan! Mind your words. I did as you said. I told you to flirt with Skylar to distract her, not Laura. Don't think I'm paying you a nickel more. Fine, don't pay me. Just be sure to take me a picture of your husband's face when the real DNA result arrives in his inbox. You You! Oh my God! Did I just hear it wrong? What DNA results? Could it be? I immediately went home and rushed into my dad's office to look for the DNA certificate that my mom gave him that day. Here it was! What should I do now? That's right, I had to take it to the hospital to have it checked. After pleading and putting pressure on the doctor, he finally admitted that he'd accepted a bribe from Dean to fake the test result. I asked for the original one and, believe it or not, Laura was not my dad's child. I immediately rushed home and showed my dad the original DNA results. He was so shocked, I had to help him sit down, then get him a glass of water. When he got over the initial shock, he asked me to call Laura and Mum in to confront them. But, oh no, Laura's room was empty. Only one letter was lying on the bed. Sorry, everyone. Dean told me the truth. Thank you all for taking care of me. Especially you, Skylar. I honestly enjoyed being around you. I think you're kind and patient. Please don't ever change. I don't belong in your world, so I can't stay. If we're predestined, we will meet again. Thank you, and sorry again. Love, Laura. Unbelievable! How could you lie to all of us about something like this? Knowing she couldn't wriggle out of this one, Mum replied, Okay, Laura isn't yours. I fell pregnant with her after we broke up. I didn't want you to throw me out, so I paid Dean to get a fake DNA certificate. Then I paid him again to date Skylar and distract her from her studies. This business should be Laura's, not hers. But that jerk went and fell for Laura instead. Poor Dad. He looked so heartbroken. Mum tried pleading with him to forgive her, but he told her the trust was broken and that she had to leave. Everything's such a mess. Poor Dad shut himself away in his office, while me, I lay on my bed, staring at the ceiling. I couldn't stop thinking about all of Mum's lies. And what for? Money? Fame? Status? Are all those things worth sacrificing dignity, honor, and trust for? I used to want to compete with Laura too, but now it turns out that all of that was just fleeting. Dad, I think I should leave too, because I'm not your biological daughter either. You... I've known for a while, but I've kept quiet as I was afraid that you would abandon me. Thank you for always being there for me. You're a good man, and you don't deserve all the pain you've been through. Then I told my dad all about how I found out I was adopted and how my mom paid my real mom to hand me over. Dad froze for a few seconds, then calmly said, Skylar, honey, you'll always be my daughter, and I couldn't be prouder of you. Please, stay here with me. I couldn't hold back my tears. Did Dad really want me around? Even after all this crazy stuff? I really love my dad, but I couldn't upset him anymore. The next day, Dad and I went around to Laura's adoptive mom's house. I cleared the air with her and invited her to come back with us. She politely declined. Turns out she just wants a simple life. We still meet up sometimes, and we've actually become pretty good friends. Isn't it amazing? Because before that, we were like water and fire. The fact that I don't have to teach her Excel anymore probably helps. There are those who do whatever they can to win fame and fortune, but this often comes at a cost. Mum let greed turn her into a monster, and now she's paying for it. I don't like what she did, but she's still my mum. Well, my adoptive mum anyway. So I still send her subsidies and wish her happiness for the rest of her life. The truth is that I'd rather forego a huge fortune and live a quiet life than become someone I don't want to be. If it were you, would you do the same to live in peace? Why haven't the results of the sketch contest been published yet? Hey guys, the results are over here! Frantically, I ran to the results board. Julie Morris, the first place on the list!
Phew! Congrats, Julie. You deserve it. You're both pretty and talented. Is there anything you can't do? Oh, how I adore receiving high praises from everyone like that. But what's that sound? I turned around and it was just Kate. Normally she'd win for sure, but let's check out her rank. Oh, here at the bottom. It was all because of the school logo in ink on the body of the pencil she used that day. Kate's hands got sweaty easily, so when drawing, the ink stained her hand and she accidentally smeared it all over her paper. Poor you, Kate. But you know what? I'm just simply better than you. Now, all that was left between me and one of the 3 golden tickets to a design summer camp in Italy was one last contest. There's one problem. This new girl called Ariana. Unfortunately, just so happens to be a talented designer.
Julie, are you okay? Miss, Julie fainted.
A boy shouted loudly and frantically took me to the first aid room. Yeah, so now here I am. But hey, don't worry, actually. I'm not ill at all. I was just pretending so I could skip PE class to carry out my plan. As I walked into class, I saw everyone buzzing around Ariana's desk. I asked my friend what happened, and she said someone had spilled coffee all over her drawing. Ariana was all panicking and kept checking her watch. She'd still have to redraw it, but time was running out. Suddenly, a voice said, "Hey, someone dropped a necklace here. Maybe that's who did all this?" Subconsciously, I touched my neck, and it wasn't there. Then there was a hand on my shoulder that startled me to turn around. It was Rebecca.
If I'm not mistaken, this is yours, right?
She glared at me. That's my necklace, but...
So how did it end up under Ariana's desk?
At that moment, I was so shaken that I couldn't say a word. Luckily for me, Ariana piped in. I think it's just a coincidence. Julie would never do something like this. Everyone agreed with her, saying that a sweet girl like me would never do such a mean thing. It's okay. Rebecca was just confused. That's all. No worries. Ugh, how dare Rebecca accuse me? It's crazy to think we used to be besties. You see, I've known her since childhood, as our parents are friends. But then she grew up and turned into this awful know-it-all. But hey, I needed to put it aside. I had to focus on my own design. Just because I'd sabotaged Ariana's design didn't mean I could let my guard down. It was an anxious wait to find out if I'd made the summer camp list. Though I shouldn't have to be that stressed, as of course, I was in. Turns out, even though Ariana had to redraw in a rush, she still got one slot too. But the last slot went to... Rebecca? Huh? I didn't know she was also into fashion design. Anyway, whatever, Rebecca. She was never my match. So, ta-da! Finally, I'm here in Milan, the fashion capital of the world. And guess what? During the summer camp, there will be various competitions, and the best will win a scholarship to the Polytechnic University of Milan. Unbelievable! I've been dreaming about this for a long time. No one was going to stand in my way. The camp was amazing. I enjoyed visiting museums and studying courses in fashion history, choosing clothing material, and cutting techniques. Then, our first test was announced, completing basic sewing skills in the fastest time. Easy peasy! I've even taken some classes on tailoring before, so of course it didn't bother me. Seeing everyone struggling to complete their products, I smiled and confidently pressed the end time button. However, at the same time, someone else hit their button too. Rebecca. Of course, the judges loved my work, but watching them praise Rebecca's work sucked. Ugh! How can someone who has never taken a sewing class be so good? The 2 weeks of summer camp flew by, but then the last challenge arrived, which would decide the winner. Each candidate got a large piece of cloth, and this is all we would be given, which meant no room for mistakes. Everyone was trying to focus and design with maximum intensity. I glanced at Rebecca, who seemed to almost be finished with the dress. And to be honest, her white dress looked quite simple but elegant. Suddenly it got me anxious. Ugh! Since when did she become such a pain in the neck? We had a little break at noon, so everyone went out for lunch. Meanwhile, I stayed back a little longer trying to finish the test. I just didn't feel like eating, knowing that my dress was not perfect yet. But only, I wasn't able to concentrate on my design. I kept staring at Rebecca's mannequin instead. Should I do this or not? If anyone finds out, then everything will be over. But if I lose, then my dreams will be shattered anyway. Something inside of me kept urging me to go straight to Rebecca's work and immediately splash ink on that white dress. My heart thudded with a mixture of excitement and guilt. Then I quickly fled the scene. When everyone returned to the room and saw Rebecca's dress, they gasped in shock. Huh? Why was Rebecca the only one not panicking? She calmly took a brush, dipped it in the inkwell, and walked towards the dress. Then she started splashing ink over it. What was she playing at? My question was immediately answered when a very unique ink-patterned dress appeared in front of my eyes. Worse still, the judges' faces lit up when they saw it, and they highly appreciated her problem-solving skills. Congrats, Rebecca. You did a good job. Nah, thanks to you, Julie. Let's see who wins. Rebecca sneered and walked away. What did she mean by that? Did she know that I was the one who did it? I was so worried that I tossed and turned all night. Hey, Julie, wake up. You can't be late for the last challenge. Oh, hi, Ariana. What are you saying? Uh-oh. Hang on. How come it was still the 23rd of July? Had I dreamt it all? But it was so strange. Things actually happened exactly like that dream. The ink incident with Rebecca's dress, and her quick thinking to rescue it. Anyways, keep calm. I couldn't let this scholarship slide. I couldn't be that girl that lost out on my dream to someone else. The shame would be unbearable. After finishing the design, each of us would have a model to present it. At that point, I made a crazy decision. Right before the performance, I quickly followed Rebecca's model to the restroom, locked the door from the outside, then put the out of service sign in front of it. When all the contestants settled down to watch the show, Rebecca still didn't turn up. Well, maybe she was still busy looking for a substitute model. Give up yet, Rebecca? I was laughing to myself when my thoughts of victory were interrupted by applause and whistles. Huh? On the catwalk. Is that Rebecca? Wearing her own design? Ariana whispered into my ear. Rebecca is stunning. She totally deserves this scholarship, right, Julie? What? How could Rebecca surpass me again? Hey, Julie, wake up. You can't be late for the last challenge. What? It's still the 23rd of July? Hang on. This meant Rebecca hadn't won yet, and I still had a chance. This time, I decided not to mess up Rebecca's dress. Instead, I looked up online some ideas to improve my own design, and I discovered a wonderful design on a fashion blog, which was quite similar to what Rebecca was doing. Ha! Turned out Little Miss Perfect was just an idea thief. So I decided to design the exact same dress, and 1 hour right before the show, it was time to pull the trigger. I reported to the judge that Rebecca stole my idea and claimed myself to be the owner of that blog. But instead of any sign of panic, a smirk lit up on Rebecca's face as she turned to me and said, "Game over, Julie." Then she went straight to the judge. I didn't know what she told them, but they disqualified me right after. Excuse me? I couldn't breathe or think or anything. I pointed at Rebecca and yelled, "She's the thief! There's something wrong here!" Then Rebecca calmly approached me. "Nice try, Julie, but your dirty tricks won't fool me. I know it was you that ruined Kate and Ariana's projects. And guess who is the real owner of that blog? Yep, me." I stared at her in shock as she continued to talk about the real reason why she stopped being friends with me. She said it was all because of my jealousy, which had turned me into such a mean girl.
Julie, you're beautiful and talented. You need to believe in your own abilities instead of sabotaging other people's work. Don't be that type of person. I woke up sweating. I reached for the phone and it was still the 23rd of July. Ugh! Would this day please be over already? But maybe this was good, as this meant I had a chance to put things right. Lunchtime arrived, and I lingered behind and looked at Rebecca's perfect dress. I hovered my hand over the ink bottle, but then I left it where it was. Sighed, then walked back over to my own dress. So, what happened? Well, Rebecca still won, but you know what? It's okay. I tried my best, I didn't cheat, and, well, Rebecca's dress was a worthy winner. After the competition, I saw some of the other girls congratulating Rebecca, so I walked over and tapped her on the shoulder, and giving her a sincere smile said, "I just wanted to say congrats. Your design's amazing." Thanks, Julie. I really love your dress too. Your stitching was so precise. Okay, so I didn't win, but I did learn a valuable lesson. I should always give 100% in what I do, instead of wasting so much time and energy trying to ruin things for other people. Oh, and about that time loop, I put it down to competition stress. I think it must have made me feel like I was stuck in a dream world until I learned the error of my ways. Finally, I've found inner peace and I'm finally out of that dream. I have to admit, I did whoop when I woke up and it was finally the 24th of July. Ugh, look at them flirting. What an eyesore. But don't get it wrong. Trust me, this is no happy family. That woman there isn't my mom. She's Rochelle, our housemaid. I repeat, housemaid. But it looks like she has her sights set on becoming my stepmom. Ugh. We only hired her because after my mom passed away, Dad and I struggled to deal with our grief, and our clumsiness as well, so tidying the house didn't take priority. I suppose Rochelle was an okay maid. Can't deny that she's a good cleaner, and her cooking is tasty. However, recently, I've noticed that she always cooks Dad's favorite meals. Also, they laugh and flirt and constantly give each other these gooey-eyed looks. Yuck! Today, she even took out her handkerchief and attentively wiped my dad's sweaty forehead. Who does she think she is? She definitely wanted to hypnotize Dad. If she thought she'd have a slot in this house, she was totally wrong. I needed to do something about this. I had to talk to Dad right away. Dad, Mom didn't pass away that long ago, but it looks like you've already lined up her replacement. Didn't you hurt Mom enough by reconnecting with your ex right before she died?
What do you mean replacement? Brittany, you're being childish and unreasonable.
I don't know, and I don't care. But I want Rochelle to get out of our house immediately. She's for sure trying to get something out of you.
Okay, fine. If you insist. But make sure you find a new housemaid to replace her.
Ugh. So it turns out that finding a new maid who's actually good is nearly impossible. Dozens of people came to try out, but none of them were as considerate as Rochelle. Okay, after all, we still needed a maid, so I reluctantly let Rochelle stay until I found someone new. This didn't mean I was going to let my annoyance for her slide. I decided that while I was stuck in the same house as her, I may as well play some tricks on her to let out my anger. When she decided to cook, again, the divine chicken soup that my dad loved so much, I kindly added a little salt to make it more savory. But somehow, my dad still praised her delicious food. He must just be flattering her, right? So I tried it for myself. What? How could she do that? It tasted amazing. Ugh. Another time, I copied this trick I saw on TikTok by sticking layers of food wrap on Rochelle's door, then acting like there was an emergency. Quick! The oven is making weird noises. I think something's burning. Rochelle quickly ran out of the room and I couldn't help but laugh my head off. Her face was really funny. She then gave me this bewildered look and smiled helplessly. Ugh, why did this woman never get mad? Okay then, let's step it up a notch. I decided to play the ultimate trick. Knowing that Rochelle was scared to death of cockroaches, I cut a cockroach shape out of paper and put it behind the fabric of her nightlight. That night, I was dozing off when I heard a screechy scream, "Ah!" coming from Rochelle's room. Aha! Success! But she was so terrified that she fainted. Oops! Do you know what the most annoying thing is? Even after all the trouble I've caused her, Rochelle was still super sweet to me. She was always offering me cookies and asking me about my day and stuff. I felt like she was trying to play the role of a mother, and I didn't like that at all. She couldn't fool me. I knew she only put up with me to please my dad. Thanks to Rochelle, I could never be at ease, even in my own home. But recently, a very special person has come into my life and lit up my mood. It was totally by chance. That day, it had rained like crazy, so there were puddles everywhere. I was on my way home from the grocery store when a car drove whizzing by. I thought I was going to get a free bath, but then suddenly, an arm pulled me back and shielded me with his body. Just like in a romantic movie, standing there was a boy, soaking wet, asking if I was okay. Aww, he had totally swept me off my feet. We walked together for a while, and he told me his name's Chris, and he lives in the next neighborhood. That's it! I needed to find a way to impress Chris, and also thank him for helping me. So, after some careful thinking, I decided to bake him a cake. I'd seen Rochelle bake before. It looked easy peasy. So I baked one and gave some to my best friend Sue to try. But she spat it out and said, "Ew, gross." I sadly sat in the kitchen, staring at my pathetic cake, and wondered where I'd done wrong. That's when Rochelle stepped into the room. But to my surprise, instead of laughing at me, she patted me on the shoulder.
Come here. I'll teach you how to cook.
Rochelle was a good cook, so I'd be stupid not to learn from her. This doesn't mean I like her, though. I just want to win my crush's heart. So after that, each day after school, Rochelle gave me a cooking lesson. Okay, so maybe she wasn't as bad as I first thought. We tried out different recipes together and came up with our own perfect formula. And finally, I could bake a lovely heart-shaped chocolate cake by myself to confess my love to Chris. And you know what? He said yes. I was so deeply in love with Chris that I totally forgot about my conflict with Rochelle. Chris often came over to my place. My dad and Rochelle loved him. So now, besides my dad's favorite food, Rochelle also makes Chris's favorites too. She's incredible. She could remember everything Chris loves and hates, even the trivia, like he's allergic to peanuts. We were just like a family, and I have to admit, it felt kinda good. And then, out of literally nowhere, the shock of my life happened. My dad passed away from cancer. I didn't even know he was ill. As you might guess, I totally broke down and didn't want to do anything after that. My mom and dad had both left me, just within a single year. But at least I still had Rochelle and Chris beside me. Rochelle took care of me like I was her actual daughter. I was going through such a tough time in life, but having them around made me feel like I wasn't completely alone. The grief had to fade away eventually, and it's gonna be okay from now on, I thought. Until one day, I was baking cupcakes when my dad's lawyer appeared and showed me the will. Turns out, my dad had left the house to me, but only on the condition that I had a guardian, some woman named Laura. Huh? That's odd. I don't know anyone named Laura. But wait, I think I've heard this name from someone. Oh, my mom. When she was in her last days, Mom once told me that my dad had been talking to his ex again, and her name was Laura. Could it be her? Did he seriously make his ex my guardian? Unbelievable! I had to get to the bottom of this. But how could I find this mystery Laura? I had no family. Well,
besides my Uncle Colin, who was living in France. So I contacted him and told him everything. He flew back at once, and although I hadn't seen him in years, I couldn't hold back my emotions and ended up sobbing on his shoulder. And then he told me the horrible truth. Laura is none other than the woman who had just walked through the door. It was Rochelle, the woman who had been living in my house. I couldn't believe my ears. What on earth is going on? So Rochelle moving in was no coincidence? My dad sneakily snuck her in as a maid so they could be together? My pain and disappointment were overwhelming, but I had to calm down so I could think rationally. I knew I needed to be smart and outplay Rochelle at her own game. Since then, I started watching Rochelle and noticed something strange. Rochelle and Chris were a bit too close and intimate. I often saw them whispering to each other when they thought I wasn't looking. What did this mean? Could it be that Rochelle was trying to coax my boyfriend into one of her dark schemes? Or, worse still, was the guy I loved cheating on me with an older woman? My suspicions deepened. When a few days later, Chris told me he was sick, so I had to take the school bus for a couple of days. And Rochelle also asked me for a few days off. Could it just be coincidence? I didn't think so. So I decided to be a detective for once. Right after Rochelle left, I started following her. And with no surprise, she went to my boyfriend's house.
Hi, Mom!
Excuse me? Mom? She's his mom? So that means she not only flirted with my father, but also planted her son to distract me to take over my family's property? I trusted them. How could they be so cruel? Suddenly, I remembered a detail that I didn't notice until now. After eating the food she'd cooked, for some reason, my father became weaker and weaker and eventually passed away. Did she poison him? If that's the case, then she really is a poisonous snake in human disguise. I immediately broke up with Chris and fired Rochelle, then went home and told Uncle Colin everything. At least I had him on my side.
Now what we need to do is refute her custody of the property. I'll take care of everything, and you just have to do what I say.
Then, Uncle Colin helped me prepare a lawsuit against Rochelle and her son for fraud. Those two will pay the price for what they did to my father and me. Oh, but the thing is, now Rochelle didn't live here. It felt so empty. I was so angry with her, but I also found myself missing her too. I loved and trusted her. And Chris too. And feelings like that don't just vanish overnight. But when I was still thinking about it, there was the lawyer. Again! And he was accompanied by Uncle Colin. What's happening now?
Miss Brittany Jensen hereby transfers the entire estate of 25 Oakwell House to Mr. Colin Jensen, as signed by both parties.
Huh? Signed? When did I sign that? I snatched the paper and shouted, "Scam! I never saw this paper! Uncle, what is this? Please say something."
I don't know. Just follow the legal documents.
No. So Uncle Colin was just pretending to care, when really he just wanted to trick me into signing over my house? Oh God. Thinking about it, it must have been that day. The day where he gave me a bunch of papers to sign, claiming that they were about me suing Rochelle and Chris. OMG, the lying con! At the time, I'd been so upset that I only skimmed the first page without looking at the following ones. I was too careless.
From tomorrow, Miss Brittany Jensen will have to return all assets to Mr. Colin Jensen. You have 24 hours to prepare.
I tried shouting at my uncle, and then I tried reasoning with him, but he didn't care. He just smirked at me and told me that he was just taking what was rightfully his. Ugh, what a vile man. So now, I have nothing left. I was kicked out of my own house and deceived by my own uncle. I don't know why I accidentally passed Chris's house just as he opened the door to take a delivery, and our eyes met. I turned and started to run away, but Chris caught up with me and grabbed my hand. Even after the awful way I treated them both,
Rochelle and Chris still invited me inside and made me dinner. I ashamedly told them what happened. Then Rochelle told me everything. It turns out that my father found out that he had cancer a while ago, but he didn't tell me because he saw how upset I was after losing Mom, and he was afraid I would worry too much. Rochelle saw his health deteriorating and figured out what was wrong, so she volunteered to take care of him because she still cared for him. But as a friend, nothing more. As for the will, my dad understood Uncle Colin all too well and didn't trust him, so he gave custody to Rochelle. But unexpectedly, in the end, I still stupidly fell into his trap.
As for Chris, I really didn't know you two knew each other until you brought him home. But at that time, I didn't want to confess I was his mother and affect your relationship. I'm sorry, Brittany.
Britt, please stay here with me and Mom. We'll get through this tough time together, okay?
That's right, darling. No matter what, we'll never abandon you.
I'm sorry. I misunderstood you both.
It's okay. Everything will be fine from now on. You'll never have to do this alone.
Yeah, every dog has its day. This is totally not wrong. My life is nothing like my previous wealthy one, but I have something that my conniving, vulturous uncle doesn't have, and that's people who love and care about me. What my uncle did was wrong, and Rochelle and Chris are helping me to make a legal case against him. As for now, well, I still haven't given up on my passion for cooking and still practice with my master every day. And you know what? I just won first prize at the city cooking competition. Right, I better go, as I have a big treat planned for Oh my, look at those dudes over there. It's so true that all men are the same. All it takes is seeing some pretty girls and their eyes immediately light up. I was about to ignore these jerks, but then this couple walked in holding hands. Instantly, the jerks started making a fuss. Ew, look! That's gross! Then they pretended to retch. Geez, these idiots needed to keep their outdated views to themselves. Well done, guys. You've just booked yourself the 99th place on the playbook. Let me show you my playbook. In here, you'll find all types of men, from nerds, hot boys, jocks, and successful businessmen, but they all have one thing in common. They are all bad. Hi, I'm Monica, and I'm a playgirl who was trained to take revenge on men. Since I was little, I was taught that all men are bad, and it's my duty as a woman to teach them a lesson, especially homophobes and womanizers. Now all that's missing is the 100th prey. Then done! Hey sis, family meeting now! Oops, duty called. Mom's gonna reveal our final mission. Now, where are my books and pens? Yeah, those two are my colleagues and also my competitors. There's Cindy, my impulsive little sister, and next to her is Grace, my older, super smart, and slightly more mature sister. As for me, I'm something in between. Not as childish as Cindy, but not as calm and collected as Grace. Oh, here's Mom.
Okay, let's get to the point. So this is it, the last goal, and it's the biggest one yet. So, this time you're not working together, but on your own. This target won't be easy, but you all have your own charms, and I have every faith in you all. And the time starts now.
Dennis Groff. Let's see. Oh, he's quite handsome. The son of a CEO and super rich. It figures he's a lady killer. Duh! But why did Mom assign him to us? I mean, she usually just lets us set our own goals. Also, why do we have to compete against each other? Maybe it was because it was the 100th target, so she was making it extra challenging? We all love Mom and want to please her. I mean, who doesn't want to be the last one to complete the family playbook, right? I stayed up all night making a plan of action. From my social media stalking, I found out that Dennis's friend was having birthday celebrations at a bar in town tomorrow night. So, the next evening, I put on the sexiest red dress that I've bought for this specific occasion and walked confidently into the bar. All eyes were on me, except Dennis's. Excuse me? Was he going to the bar for free Wi-Fi or what? Seeing that, I took a glass of wine and gently approached him. But suddenly, a strange guy came out of nowhere and pulled my hand back.
Honey, where are you going? Have a drink with me?
Get out of the way! I'm busy! I was about to turn my attention back to my prey when, oops! The strange guy tripped me up, causing me to stumble onto the ground. This was so embarrassing. I guess I just have to call it a night. But suddenly, an arm appeared in front of me. I looked up and, hey, it was Dennis? I was a bit surprised, but quickly regained my confidence and let him help me up. After that, he offered to buy me a drink, and then we ended up chatting into the early hours. And jackpot! Turned out he's as big of a golf lover as I was, so I persuaded him to join a golf club with me. Ain't that a smart move? A week later, and it was progress report day. One by one, we told Mom what we'd done so far. Cindy tried hard to approach Dennis by coming to the billiard hall that he frequented, and being the typical impulsive kid that she is, she bombarded Dennis with messages on social networks. She seems to be quite optimistic, though, as Dennis responded to her quite friendly, and the two kind of vibed when it came to billiards. As for Grace, she applied for the position of assistant manager at Dennis's company. I know. Man, my sister is a genius. She even said that she already felt some chemistry going on, as he wouldn't take his eyes off of her. Mom seemed impressed with the progress we'd made so far. Everyone's attained certain achievements, but sure thing, I was still in the lead. I felt it. I don't know if I'm being delusional, but Dennis and I were getting so close, and he had also shown some gestures of concern for me. Anyway, it appears that I'll have to work even harder than I first thought to win this one. Yeah, I did used to wonder if what Mom always said about men was 100% true, and why my sisters and I had to do all this. Until one day, back when I was 16, that day, I was going into my mom's room to borrow some jewelry for catfishing when I found an open notebook on the ground. Curious, I picked it up and discovered it was Mom's diary. And it was in a tragic story. She once fell deeply in love with a man, but then ran into him with someone else. Worse, she didn't even have a chance to confront him. Instead, she got his message right away.
I knew the truth already. You're not a real woman. We're over.
Not a real woman was what that Nick called my mom. Ridiculous! Just because my mom is a transgender? She did not go through all this pain and heartache to be disrespected like that. My mom's life was tragic, like a movie. Curiously, I flipped through it all from the beginning, and my heart felt like it's actually breaking, finding out what Mom had been through. Turned out, she and Nick were part of a group of 3 back in high school, alongside Maureen. Nick and Maureen were a couple, so my mom, as Jack at that time, had to keep her love from Nick a secret and poured it all into this diary. Unfortunately, Maureen found out her secret and exposed it to the whole school, which made everyone make fun of my mom, and she had to leave in shame. After so many years, she was still not able to forget Nick, so she decided to do the trans surgery to return to find him and fight for her love. They had some happy months together, but on that one disastrous day, she found out that he cheated on her. And it was with none other than Maureen. Harsh! How can people be so cruel to each other like that? Mom was a good person, and thanks to her, orphans like Cindy, Grace, and I could have a home. I owed so much to her, which is why I was desperate to succeed at her last mission and to make her happy. Back to the mission. Everything was going great between me and Dennis. He took me to the golf club and out for dinner. For a rich businessman type, I had to admit that he wasn't all stern and serious. Actually, he was a lot of fun to be around. Then, when he dropped me off after a date, he touched my hand and said,
Monica, I'm really enjoying getting to know you, and I would like it very much if you would come and have dinner with my family tomorrow.
Whoa! This was great! I mean, this project would be way easier now I had an open invite to scope out his family. But no. What is this feeling? I had butterflies in my stomach, and my palms were sweaty. It must just be the thrill of meeting Dennis's family. Right? But why couldn't I stop thinking about his cute laugh and his dreamy eyes? Oh no, I think I might have actual feelings for him. From then on, I found myself wanting to scream and throw stuff at Cindy and Grace every time I heard them bragging about how close they were getting to Dennis. I'm crazy, aren't I? Now what? Am I the predator or the prey? OMG, I'm so nervous, I literally can't stop shaking. Whoa, they looked so wealthy and classy. His parents were both really sweet, and I soon felt a lot more relaxed. We had dinner, and the conversation flowed easily. There was just one thing that kept bothering me. His dad's name is Nick? Surely this was a coincidence, right? I mean, Nick's a popular name. Something didn't sit right with me, so I knew I needed to say something to Mom. I anxiously walked back and forth until I heard her car pull up outside. Mom, is Dennis's father that man? She looked stunned, then slowly sat down, sighed, and told me everything. Just like I thought, she picked Dennis to be the 100th target, or more like a bait, just to take revenge on Nick. Furthermore, she wanted us to use Dennis to make Nick go bankrupt. But what did Dennis do? If you have a problem with Nick, then talk to him. Why drag his innocent son into it? Mom and I were having a heated argument when Cindy and Grace approached. What's wrong with you? Stop being so smitten. Mom just wants to use us as tools for personal revenge, and she doesn't love us at all. Don't be so insolent. I see that you're letting your emotions screw up your decision. Nick treated our mom badly, so his son deserves to pay the price for this. You know how much pain he caused, Mom? Don't you want to fight for her? Wow, you totally suck and are an awful person. I couldn't stay here and listen to any more of this, so I rushed out of there and went and stayed with my friend. I have no idea what I'm meant to do now. One thing's for sure, I can't go through with Mom's revenge plan anymore. Maybe I should go find Nick and ask him to sit down with Mom and talk things through. Unfortunately, I underestimated my sisters, as I was scrolling through my phone when I saw a post from Cindy exposing Dennis as a womanizing jerk who dated 3 girls at the same time. As proof, she'd inserted pictures of Dennis with each of us. Trust her to do something so childish. It gets worse, as Grace linked up with a hacker to splatter the company's website with things like, Mr. Nick Groff, the president of Groff Corporation, is a liar, traitor, and homophobe. This media crisis has caused the whole company to suffer, and now Dennis was avoiding my calls. I was hovering my finger over the call button when at that precise moment, Grace texted me, Hey sis, you better not miss the sacred moment we tick off number 100 in the playbook. The mission is over anyway. Let's just go home and make up. Mom's waiting. No way was I going to let them do this. So I immediately called Dennis and left an urgent voicemail, telling him that he needed to get his father and go round to my house ASAP. As I led them inside, Mr. Groff and Mom's eyes all widened when seeing each other. Nick stood there frozen, while Mom just asked him to leave immediately. But eventually, I managed to convince them to all sit down and sort this mess out.
Jean, I worked out straight away that you were Jack. I was shocked at first, but then I realized it didn't matter, as I truly loved you. So I just wanted to wait until you were ready to tell me.
You knew it? Impossible!
We used to be very close friends. It's really not difficult for me to recognize Jack's habits. Besides, your face still retains some of the old features.
Whatever. But I saw you with that snake, Maureen. And you even had the cheek to break up with me through one cynical text. Do you know how much pain I had to suffer to pursue you? Nick looked genuinely confused. Then things slowly revealed themselves. So Maureen was the one who sent that cruel message on that day. When she found out about my mom and Nick, she investigated and discovered that Mom was actually Jack. That day at the coffee house, she begged Nick to take her back, but he refused. So she made up some excuse to borrow Nick's phone, then sent that message to break them apart. My mom sat there in shocked silence. I guess she was processing the fact that she took revenge on the wrong person.
And now she'd caused problems for two innocent people.
I'm so sorry. I let my emotions overrule me and make me bitter. I promise I will put this right. I am Jean Wilkins, a transgender woman, and Nick Groff's ex. I thought he betrayed me, and this made me turn into an angry version of myself, who became blinded by my desire for revenge. Only, I was wrong. You see, it's impossible that Nick has any ill will toward the LGBT community, because he loved me. As for his son, Dennis, he's a good man who got caught up in the crossfire. He's never cheated on anyone, so please don't judge him for something he hasn't done.
As I watched the video, I felt immensely proud of my brave mom. She'd made a lot of mistakes, but she'd publicly owned up to them, which took a lot of courage. Thankfully, the video worked. Nick's company has recovered, and Dennis's name was cleared. So, what happens next? Well, me and my sisters apologized to Dennis and Nick. Luckily, they are both very kind and understanding guys. Mom doesn't hold grudges against men anymore, and she's even started dating this lovely man named Jacob. Cindy met this sweet girl called Beverly, who, thinking about it, is pretty much her opposite, but they're actually kinda cute together. Grace is still single and focusing on her career. And me? I will never touch this ever again, 'cause I'm sticking with this prey forever.